Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MEC POD. We're ready to get into everything. My name's Travysty. I'm joined with my co-host, Mac, and we got special guest, Logan, not to be confused with the, famous superhero Logan, aka Wolverine,
Yeah, different guy.
Different guy. You can see a little bit of the resemblance.
He doesn't have the bottom half of the beard. He just has the side bits.
Yeah.
How much could I do to convince you to do that?
So I've done it before. It doesn't go well. The beard hides the fact that I have absolutely zero jawline. So it works really well in that, and it ages me a bit. And if I cut that off, then not only do I look like I'm trying to be Wolverine, I just look like a doofus. And I look way younger than I am. So
yeah, I get that. Babyface syndrome comes in, and you're like,
Yeah.
I promise, I'm perfectly fine. Max over here, like, I'm forever young.
I got carded at a bar once, and it was when I had no beard. Every other time,
No,
don't fuck around.
I can't confirm. Even when I'm out with my parents, can I get a beer with dinner? They're like, yeah, I'm gonna need to see that ID. I'm like, still far away from slipping by.
I didn't start getting by from ID checks until beard had grown in. So I totally
I
get that.
It's the hack.
That's the hack, I think. I think a lot of people see beard and they just immediately go, "Oh, okay, you're
Oh,
of
yeah,
age."
no,
Oh,
seems
I don't-
legit.
I don't think I've not had a beard since like high school.
Also,
I've been bearded for like 5 years. It's ridiculous at this point.
hairstyle also matters, because if you have,
Yes.
I had an emo look for all the way up
Yeah,
until
then,
my early 20s and going into like 22, 23. So I had like the long hair that was always like pushed over. I stopped covering my eye after I became a legal adult, but like it was still just like I had that swoosh that was there. I would still be like, huh, hello.
That was your coming of age.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna finally show the second eye.
The coming of age is
Is
just.
Sharingan?
Well, hey,
I've been hiding it this whole time.
other people have receding hairlines. I just have a receding swoop. Now I just pull it all back now. It's fine. But hey, this has been a very, very exciting week for MEC fans, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and start things off real quick just with one individual, the person who got to cast more games than anybody else this weekend. I would like to start off with one Mac Dewey, who casted banger after banger. Last night, you guys didn't end until like after midnight, brother. Like, that was crazy.
Being on the East Coast hurt a little bit for that one, but at the end of the day, there's not a community I'd want to push through it more for than the MEC squads. Chat was hype, everyone going crazy for everyone spamming the King Julian memes, which I don't think we've casted a lot of ONU games.
Yeah,
and so I wasn't ready for the Julian.
Oh,
meme,
wait, was that your first
it.
experience with it?
Yeah,
Brother.
absolutely. I think it was.
We've had it all season.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Dude, like I think I've gotten every ONU game except for the one you guys got on Monday, and it's just literally like there is a fandom. Somebody went and made an account called Julian Lover.
Yep.
Like it's on another degree. I thought like the whole King Kai and like the Brothers of Destruction thing from last year was class. No, Ohio Northern have a new king apparently.
I have been trying to figure out how I can work my Mort impression into color casting, and him saying King Julian. I'm trying to figure out how I can work it in, but every time I get ready to do it, it's just like, no, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work here.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's gonna be really weird if I do it. I have to like stop myself. I have to mentally filter.
I cannot force this joke. I can't.
Yeah, it will come. It will come sometime this season, but not yet.
It's gonna be at the finals, and he's just gonna be like,
yeah,
I gotta do it now.
It's gonna be the winning moment. Julian gets like a Xin Zhao ulti in, and I'm gonna just say it in the most hype portion of the entire year. Just the more depression comes
I-
out.
I was ready for it for a second, but I see you're still kind of
He's
hanging
holding
on to
on
it
to
a
No,
it.
little
no,
bit. It's building the
I have
intrigue.
it.
I really like.
can't
it.
use it
It's
now.
there.
I've practiced it. I am ready for it. But I'm not giving it up yet.
That's so great. Well, we made a deal. We got to do the post-game interview with Julian as well. He stayed extra late in the ONU facility, even though like
Yeah.
lights were getting turned off behind him. He still stuck around for us to talk with him after the game, and we made him a promise. They've got a really big match coming up next week, but if they're able to
Mhm.
remain perfect,
Mm-hmm.
Shibby and Mac, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're gonna try to put together an a cappella version of "We Like to Move It" for Julian to do his dance to.
I was there for that. I was in chat. My reaction when you said this, Mac, was, "I'm casting that series. Do I have to join?"
No, I feel like this is a pre-recorded video
Yeah.
that we don't take part in, Chad. Like
just-
we don't have anything to do with it.
I just love the idea of like you two are both gonna have to like pop up from the bottom of the screen and be like,
Mhm.
"We like to move it, move it. We like to move it, move it. We like to move it." And like,
So we'll see if we're able to cook something up for that. But yeah, exciting weekend, a lot of games, kind of a blur at this point.
Yeah.
Going kind of late to bed last night,
yeah,
but overall, I mean, the games of the week definitely delivered. Um, overall, I mean, two back to back. I think that was our first night with
Yeah, that-
two best of threes going the distance. So it might have been one of the longer broadcasts
usually it's
on
like
the season. But
I think that was actually the longest broadcast because it was 2-2-1s and we haven't had any 2-2-1s on the same day. It's always
Yeah,
been
exactly.
2-2-0. It's either been like 1-2-0 and a 2-1, or it's been
Yeah.
just straight up just 2-2-0. So it was actually a very long day for y'all, and they were good games. Like you were
So
talking
good.
about the Ohio Northern matchup, of course, and that's a big
Mhm.
one that we're going to have to talk about. But also the matchup before that, where it was BCU and Cornell that were going against
Mhm.
each other, and that was a very fun series to actually go back and watch. I was sitting there on the edge of my seat because I was just like, "Oh, is Cornell going to do it? Are they going to take down Briarcliff at this moment in time?" And unfortunately for them, didn't get to see that. But it was a big weekend for a lot of teams. The weekend before the last week of MEC, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, crazy that we're already here. Hyper made it a point. He noticed it, and I was kind of thinking about it on the cast. But for that game one versus BCU and Cornell, I could not stop saying "Oh my goodness" or "Oh my god" just because of what I was watching. It was blowing me away. Mike with a bear and steel, crazy team fights. Was it, I believe, that game one with Akutsu on Ash and Peaches on Tarek?
Yes, that was game one.
That was wild.
What-
I thought they played phenomenally. And
I-
I thought, like a lot of teams played, like Mike's Olaf
Yeah.
was on a tear beforehand, but I was like, maybe Cornell actually have the pieces to play into it a little bit. And I feel like we've been saying this a lot on the pod throughout, the season. Cornell,
Yeah.
despite their troubles, have been a team that's really impressed. And I think we saw some of that
I like
on
Cornell.
Monday with what makes them a fun team to watch.
I like them a lot.
I think they're my favorite team to watch, not because they always win, but they're always doing something interesting.
Mhm.
Right? There's always something going on with that team, and it's not like a bad thing. It's just there's always something that's not. Oh, we're gonna see Zach Udier top. We're going to see the same three champions mid. Like they always have something different going on, and I love to see that. Like it's fun to see like something not what everyone else is doing going on. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's also just like you put them together against BCU, and it's just like, oh, what am I going to get? I don't really know. I'm a little scared, right? Like it's like these are two teams that are gonna just throw down with a bunch of wild stuff, and it's it's good to see because I think that's one of the things I love most about CeeLo is just the fact that like the way things can kind of pan out. you could find yourself in situations where these unique champion pools that are getting put into play, because these are not players who are possibly like in NACL, right?
Yeah.
So they're not being like forced into the meta. They're kind of just having more flexibility in regards to what they want to join, or they might have some niches that they fill in. And I feel like my biggest criticism from Cornell has always been, I think their niche, they have to figure out how to put it together where all their niches come together.
Yeah.
I've been very, very much so. I've been a big component of saying that I think Eliza's one of the funner top laners to watch just because they have a unique champ pool. But I also think inside the jungle as well, like you got Cheese Ravioli rolling out onto the competition. I think that like they're very fun to watch just for that, and I feel like putting those pieces together and kind of getting Cornell to come together on what gives them dubs is very big for them.
It's been a bit. I totally get what you're saying, Travi. With I feel like casting a fair bit of their games, it's been tricky for them to play around Eliza in the side lanes, who's picking a lot of Alawi, a lot of solo
Volibear,
threats. Picking the
Cho'Gath.
Garen, Garen
Yeah.
and Darius yesterday was fun. Eliza actually in that first game. Eliza, I think, had at least like 10 kills on the Garen, so they were kind of popping off on one of their picks, which was fun to see. But I think in like a meta where it's Twisted Fate, it's Nocturne in the jungle, it makes collapsing on the side lanes really easily. So you have to be really on point when considering the map and if you're going to be playing in the side lanes, if 2 to 3 people collapse in an instant, is your team going to be able to make a play off of that? It's tough, I think, to do so, especially once the game gets rolling. So Cornell, I think, still have a little bit ways to go, but a lot of promise, I think, from them. And I harper back on Hyper. I feel like has talked to us a bit about this. Always reminded me, which is always fun. We see it sometimes in the MEC intro video. Illinois College's insane run in playoffs later on.
Yeah, the Sage
Kind of
Wabe play.
Yeah.
making their way into top 4. So I feel like Cornell, despite the struggles, can definitely be in that sort of position where we're not going to count them out just yet. It's just the regular season. All the teams make it to playoffs. Sure, they're potentially
Double elimination playoffs too.
Yeah, exactly, and they could
And
finish 7th. They have a. I'll say Shibby is very much looking forward to this game. It's CSU versus Cornell Friday night. The battle for last place comes down to the final week, boys. I'm ready for it.
and
It's
they
gonna be
don't
a
play
fun
a
game to
match.
watch.
They don't play a match after that. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it so much.
It reminds me kind of like the Drury and Illinois State actually issued out, because remember Drury was 7th place last season, and Illinois College was in last, right? And it was just like these two teams. I think Drury only had like 3 wins, and 2 of them were against Illinois State College, right? But it was just like it was so funny, like kind of looking back and seeing how Illinois College's like playoff run went. But it's also just like the regular season at the very end. I remember Drury, who had to go up against them like I think the last week, and they absolutely like clowned on them, right? And then Illinois College, they were just like, we've leveled up, it's playoffs times, and all of a sudden they're like TSM or something like that, making like a tournament bracket run through the playoffs. It's like, bro, what is this team? Where was this at? Like, yo, I am such a big fan. I wish that we could get to see him a little bit more. And by the way, I wanted to go ahead and kind of give a heads up, because we are going into our last week, and I think it's very important to recognize the schedule, because you kind of given me a perfect segue to talk about that. I stole something, and I'm admitting to it on camera. I stole
We've got him.
A graphic here. I stole
shit.
a graphic.
Stole graphic thievery.
So you can see here, this is the current match record for each team inside the MEC going into the last week. I think the interesting one for me is of course, the 7th, 8th is an interesting one. I think that will be a fun matchup, just regardless.
Yeah.
But I also think that the Ohio Northern against Purdue Northwest is going to be the biggest series of the weekend. Because think about it
Just
this
a
way.
bit.
Ohio Northern is guaranteed either first or second seed no matter what, because they have beat Braves, they beat GVU, right? They
Yep.
have chased away Vikings, they have put fear into the Braves. Now they need to slay this lion, right? And they need to take their place as king in the jungle. If Purdue Northwest actually win their game against Ohio Northern, Purdue Northwest would own the tiebreaker, I believe, and they would be ahead of Ohio Northern. But Purdue Northwest also have to beat Drury this weekend, so they have to win both their matches. And if they win both of their matches, then they actually will take first. Ohio Northern only has to lose one series, but they also could have Drury come up and win the series, and Ohio Northern gets to keep first. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of that, Travy, the Purdue Drury matchup, I'll say it. I know Pranked is an absolute MEC GOAT. Put his name up in the rafters. Dare I say, and kind of talking about the GVU versus Purdue matchup from Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Prank, I was surprised Prank struggled as much as he did, and so playing against Drury, who's I feel like Quick Slice has been their rock, their leader up in the top lane. I think it makes for a really interesting matchup to end the season on.
They feel like they've gotten better through the season. Like Drury feels like they kind of started out a little slow, and it feels like every time I see them more recently, they just seem to be playing better together as a group. Right? We talked. Travis and I talked to Fat Cat the other day on our one game this weekend.
You guys are
Intense amounts
chilling.
of well, after the weekend where I did cover 3 days, it was. I'm happy I only had to do the one day.
That's fair. That's fair.
Me sitting in the corner, envious, watching all the bangers. I'm like in the I'm in Twitch chat, just like listening to my emo soundtrack as I'm watching these games happen. I'm like, ew, man.
But we talked to Fat Cat, and it was like, it was a really interesting conversation because it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't, oh yeah, we're all meshing really well. Oh yeah, everything's going great. Our scrims are excellent. It was just like, we kind of all know each other now, and that seems better than before when we didn't know each other. Like, and I think Fat Cat was like, the big thing of like the post game was just like, who is this team now? Like, there's been so much difference. So what's going on now? And Fat Cat was like, well, I now have to be like old and shit, and I have to like be the guy who everyone is like
to be
looking
old.
at.
Yes.
Well, it's not like an old thing. It's more of just like, I have to be the guy that people are looking at now because like I'm supposed to be the veteran now. So
Yeah.
it's like, they're going through this kind of like transformation, but it seems every game we watch them, they just get better. Right? They've won their last 2. They were 1-3 after the second week. Sorry, they were 1-3 in middle of like 2 weeks ago. They just kind of feel like they've been getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah.
I think they're a threat for sure. I think that Purdue can't sleep on them, and
They could be top 4 quickly.
They
like,
could.
If they win their game this weekend, there's some weird stuff that goes on.
I don't think they can they?
Mm-mm.
I think that if Grandview lose twice, it becomes complicated.
I think,
but I could be wrong. I could be super wrong. I looked for about 30 seconds at the standing at the.
So
let
me real quick. I'm gonna look at the schedule. I'm gonna go through the schedule, right? So we got Drury takes on Purdue Northwest this weekend, right? That's their one match. That's their one match. Should be a good one. We're expecting good things out of them. I'm expecting it to go 3 games because Drury in game number 2 does not exist. Cleveland State, Cornell. Banger.
So you're expecting
No.
you're expecting Drury Purdue to go. And to be fair, Drury did go to game 3 against ONU, which is wild.
Drury's game 1s are actually insane.
Drury has said that they don't play in game 2.
Game 2, I don't know what it is.
It doesn't exist.
It sucks. It's bad.
They have game 1 and game 3, and that's their 2 wins they need.
Drury,
they don't play games 2.
Drury players, if you're listening to this, I apologize. Your game 2's a dog water. But Game 1, I expect them to come out swinging, and I expect in
Yeah.
Game 2 that they might fall, and then I think it will go 3 games because I
Mhm.
do think Purdue kind of looks like they're a little bit weaker. Cleveland State, University, Cornell, banger.
Yeah.
We'll
You have 2
decide who will
bangers
be
that
7th,
night, Mac.
8th. In Saturday,
It's a fun Friday night. It's a fun Friday.
there is Purdue Northwest and then Ohio Northern, and then Briarcliff and Grandview, and then it's Ottawa University and Grandview on Sunday. So what we're currently looking at is if Grandview were to lose 2 times, and Drury was
4
to
and
pick
3.
up 1 time, Drury. Let me go ahead and look at the head-to-head against Grandview.
Yeah, both would be 4 and 3. We'd have to go to a tiebreak.
But I believe tiebreaker favors whoever owns the matchup inside of the
That's
MEC
true.
rules, and Grandview beats Drury. If I recall correctly, there is no way for Drury to get top 4. Actually, I'm looking
So-
through the schedule because they have lost to everybody who is in top 4. So even if they find a way to own something,
Okay,
they
but
lose
wait,
the head-to-head.
Wait.
but hear me out. If this
Let me
occurs and there's a 4 and 3 with Grandview and Drury, that means a first round playoff matchup will be the 4 versus 5 seed of Grandview versus Drury,
That's true. That is very true.
and that's a banger right there.
that is a banger. That is a banger.
That's a banger.
I guess 4
Wait,
and 5th
Travi.
is very weird to, to argue against since you are going to play each other.
Hear me out.
Uh-huh.
Hear me out. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm
Purdue
here.
Northwest sitting at 4 and 1, right? They lose to Drury and they lose to ONU. Drury has the
Oh my God.
tiebreaker.
That's the big one. Screw Grandview in this
Oh, God.
discussion.
Sneaks into top 4.
Purdue could actually lose out. They could fall from grace. And the crazy
Oh
thing
my
is,
God.
you guys were talking about how like Drury's been gelling as a team. Purdue
Mm-hmm.
is a team that is really insanely good, right? Nobody's going to deny him that.
No.
However, it's a team that has practiced more than any of the other CELO teams, besides probably Ohio Northern, which I think when I talked to Ohio Northern, they didn't get to start playing together again until like towards the start of MEC season. But Purdue Northwest, like Prank was already there. They didn't have to wait on any pieces. I know Ottawa Braves, they didn't get Plutz until like 2 days before the season started. So they didn't have any scrim bucks in them, right? Like, majority of the teams didn't have it, and Purdue started off very strong. So it does start to call into the question, right? Are people overhyping Purdue?
Okay, I have a separate tangent about overhyping Purdue. Okay, and this leads into I said that I had something to complain about before the show.
Okay.
And this is a 2-parter complaint. Thing 1 I need to complain about: when you go on
Numero uno.
Twitter and you search for someone, it doesn't automatically bring the people you're following towards the top of the list. You have to get like 8 characters into someone's name in order to find them. Like I went to go look for Travysty's Twitter because I was looking for something that was on it, and I had to
I put up
type
some
out
fire
bas-
tweets. Yeah, I get
I had
it.
to type out basically the whole name. I don't follow anyone else that starts with TRAV. Why can't I just put it there at the top? Okay, that's my first thing.
Okay.
Number 2,
Fair
there's
rant.
this.
Everybody should be
collegiate-
able to pull me up when they just type in the letter T.
I
to be
agree.
honest.
There is a
On
collegiate
Twitter.
league hub Twitter account, okay, that
Oh.
does power rankings. I'm
Okay.
sure both of you have seen this, okay?
I'd have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I've
for
dabbled.
multiple weeks now, there has been no ONU in this ranking, okay? But
Yeah.
Purdue Northwest and Grandview have appeared at 11 and 12.
They're up there.
So the question is, and here's my second point: are we overrating? Are we, as in this Twitter account that is making the semi-official collegiate LOL rankings because no one else is?
Fully volunteer, by the way.
Fully volunteer. Are they overranking Purdue
think so.
Northwest
I don't think
as
so.
opposed to ONU, or are they just leaving ONU out? Because we've talked about them tonight. Like they're both very good teams.
Mac, I'll let you go first on this because I don't think so. But I have my
What?
reasoning.
I don't.
I can
haven't
send you the tweet.
seen-
I can send you.
Have
the
they
thing.
posted for this?
They haven't.
week?
No, they
They have
haven't.
not.
They do not. They
Okay.
haven't posted since February 20th, which
So this was for
the,
last week.
right after ONU had beaten. And to add
Yeah.
context into this, they did.
Where's
They
Travi? There we go.
majority of their votes had not had been put in before the ONU GVU
Yeah.
matchup,
Yeah.
in which they just assumed that GVU was going to be on top. And then even afterwards, the people that voted after the match had happened, they didn't watch the match and they didn't see the result that comes across. Which
just
I
sound
have
like
my own thing about that, but to give
bad
some
voting practice.
clarification in regards to it.
Yeah. Some context.
Yeah.
I still stand by what I've said.
I get
back to the origin, back to the question. We'll see if the power rankings are adjusted this week. I anticipate that they will.
Yeah,
Because
I've been
because
refreshing.
I think
this page.
Travy and Chibi have been talking to said power rankings members and being like, guys, where are the votes for ONU? So MEC squad, we got you guys. We're trying to have the power rankings do justice to what our regular season results have been like. I don't know if Purdue only has one loss, and the loss is against GVU. So with a grain of salt, there's not much else we can dock off of PNW's season, I feel like, for so
besides
far.
having one game where they kind of looked, I would say Purdue in that one loss looked uncharacteristically rough, but I think everybody is allowed to like have series where you're kind
Off week?
of off. Yeah, like you have an off
I
week.
also that it's a 5 p.m. Friday match. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
less
than ideal.
That is that is perhaps the least ideal time slot. Maybe Monday 5 p.m. is the worst time slot, but like that is an extremely non-ideal time slot for you are collegiate player who just went to class for a day.
Yeah.
I can give a little
leniency, right?
Leniency for the 5 p.m. Monday Friday games because like that's a little bit like Mac and I did Friday last week that early, and we had just hopped off of work and gotten
Don't
on.
they
Like,
traditionally play on Saturdays and Sundays too, right? Like they're another team that I don't think Mac gets to cast very often.
Yeah, you and I have seen a lot of them.
They're like Friday and Monday is not our bag.
But to kind of go back, I mean, given Purdue a little bit of breathing room, kind of thinking about the series a little bit and doing our deep dive of last week's action, I think starting off with the GVU PNW series is the best place to start. And I don't know if this series was more PNW screwing up or GVU going back to an identity that's worked well for them in the past. Nightstar, I think, had his biggest series of the season on carry picks, doing super well. Kog'Maw and Zeri, who I don't think we've seen from him at all.
I don't think we've seen either of them.
Yeah,
really.
He's been playing Varus pretty much every chance he gets.
Mm-hmm.
Varus
Everyone's been playing Varus. Like no one's playing Kog'Maw.
And we got to talk to Nightstar. I think he was our post game interview, and he was saying that I think this kind of style of ADC was a little bit better for him, and so GVU in my mind is one of those teams that shout out Coach talking about GVU's greatness and being able to deliver time and time again. Dreyers, and I think a big shout out to Coach because I think he deserves a lot of props, for what's going on behind the scenes and getting the team ready to play. And it seems like for a lot of these big matches, they've got a cohesive idea together of how they want to execute their game plan. And so that first game, GVU came out swinging, and it was, I feel like, just pure GVU gameplay, having a really solid match. Game 2 was really, really close between the two squads and could have gone either way. I remember I was going crazy. Doubtful had an insane insect kick. I was getting flashes of Trey. I know we talk about Trickster a lot, but shout out our MVP from last year. We saw some really good plays, from a lot of Lee Sins this week. So I was thinking about him and his plays last season. But Doubtful was putting the moves on, trying to keep the team in it, and it was the Nightstar show on Friday night. So shout out Mr. Mark Gonzalez, gamer himself, for having a solid series.
I do think that there's a discussion point to like the rankings, like looking over at GVU. I had something that I did say that I think does need to be said too, because I think Logan brings up a very good point in regards. And yet again, I don't want to flame anybody that's on the committee, because I do think that it's like they're doing this out of joy, and I think that should be recognized. Like they're doing something that doesn't need to be provided. So I want to make that clear before I start saying things. But I do think, like, out of games and stuff like that, I feel like there should be somebody who is checking the big matchups, or at least checking out the conferences and whatnot. This is the reason why I bring this up, is it's kind of something that happened in the previous year, and I know a lot of people will just scoff and be like, well, MEC is bad. That will probably be what
obviously we're not
say.
That's an ice cold take.
That will be
not ice hot take.
That's like some people. That will be what like some people will say. They'll be like, oh, it's bad, or
like,
oh, this team is not someone I will rank. They'll give me like a meme answer. I'm not even saying they seriously say that, but they don't watch it as much, and I feel like it's one of those things where they pay attention to a lot of the bigger conferences, and there's a lot of league to digest, right? But I do feel like there should be
how many schools playing?
Okay, I saw
Hundreds.
something the other day. Beautiful Crow, so who I cast with Valorant in fall. And
I got a league
filled
game
for
in
me.
with him.
Yeah, he filled in
great.
for me one night when
He
I
was a
did
joy.
it. Crow's great, but he sent something out of like retweeted someone of some spreadsheet of like all the collegiate leagues, and there's like, holy man.
So
Like I come from a Counter-Strike background where it's like there's two, right? You've got Nace, and that's about it. Like otherwise you're playing on like an open team or something like that. Like you're playing on that kind of stuff, or like a Valorant background where it's like you have these stuff, but there's basically everyone plays CVal and that's it. Like you play 4 CVal and that's it.
Yeah.
I literally looked at the spreadsheet and just like sat there, eyes agape for like 5 minutes trying to read everything, and it wasn't complete. Like it wasn't a complete spreadsheet either.
Yeah. To where my point was going is, like, I get the spreadsheet thing. There's different ways to be organized. I'm not even going to ask for any of that. But if you're going to have a team that's going to be in your top 16, maybe check in on them. Like, I do think that that's kind of one of the big things, because there are hundreds of teams and it's impossible to ask for you to check on every single matchup. But I do hope, like, if they say, okay, there's a top 16 thing. My biggest thing was not ONU being on the power ranking, because I do think ONU, you can have a good week that you perform above expectations. So I think it would be kind of heavy-footed to just be immediately like, all right, they take their spot. That's not how it works.
I would use winning CeeLo.
But I definitely was like, oh, GVU didn't get knocked down a peg when they had lost. And Ottawa Braves, of course, isn't on the power rankings, but they're a team that definitely I would assume is close up in there, just because of the fact that they were a top 16 CeeLo team. So I imagine people are looking at it. But I do hope that as they go forward with more power rankings, because I did see a lot of MEC people that were inside of it. And I'll even put up real quick, I have this little lovely tweet that I have put up here from where I had made a message about it. And immediately, King Julian himself graced me with his presence and said, it's okay, they can keep sleeping on us. Grab my pillow, catching some Z's, you know? Like, I totally get where ONU's coming from, too, because it's like, everybody is paying so much attention to they're paying attention to Purdue Northwest, who should be insanely good, and they're paying attention to GVU, who is the reigning defending champions for as long as MEC has stood.
Yep.
But there also comes into the question of like, all right, cool, but New Kids on the Block, we're killing it out here. We've knocked out the two teams that have won or been first place inside the conference.
They were in the finals.
Yes.
They were in the finals last year. Yep.
They've knocked out. Well, it's always been Ottawa Braves versus Grandview in the finals. Like, it's always been them two. So they've knocked down the old kings. Like, pay attention to the new king on the block. And I feel like ONU is definitely very valid for wanting that attention. And I hope that with the amount of public tweets, because there was a lot of tweets actually from MEC, MEC viewers, friends, family members. They were like inside of there, just like, yo, where's ONU at? Like it was like even like I believe Fat Cat was in there and said you're getting
I
next
was
time,
literally just
champ.
Fat Cat literally just tagged the bot laner for ONU and just went unlucky,
Yeah. Like,
which is excellent, perfect internet behavior.
yeah. So it's just like, you know, when it comes down to power rankings, they're all fun. They're all meant to be taken with a grain of salt. But it is one of those things where it's like, when you're the official of it all, like if you have a committee, it's the same thing that happens a lot of times. Anytime there's a committee doing anything, really, there's something that slips through the crack every single time. I give them the benefit of the doubt. I know they didn't mean it maliciously, but I do hope that like next time it comes around, they're like, all right, you know what? We're going to. Even Colomer, a good friend of mine, actually turned around and said, don't worry, I'll put ONU 67th up on my power ranking. You know, I got you, Travy. But it's like, it's all fun banter, and I know that they don't mean any harm by it. This is something that's meant to be good for these collegiate programs and stuff like that. I just hope that there's more people that see these changes and are like, oh, maybe I need to go over and see what's cooking in the MEC.
I feel like we needed a committee to committee the committee.
Let's not get into that. NACO qualifiers already has enough problems with that. All right, I don't want to get into it's not my committee. I'm just saying that's not my committee.
You know how you can have like people invited to a Discord server as like a guest, and the second like that's me right now. So I'm in that great position where I know my very scoped bit, and I can without any knowledge state things wildly inaccurately and just blame it on that. It's awesome.
There's
I can't do that again for much longer.
There's always like one or two people who always make it into committees. This happened last year inside of CeeLo, because I got into the committee. I think Mac, you got into the committee as well, right?
Yes, I
Shibby did as well.
Yep,
we were all
MEC squad was repping.
We were repping
for good reason. I think it ended up working out pretty well for us.
Congratulations, it worked out really well. The MEC pod invaded the committee.
We got Ottawa. I won't say we got Ottawa.
A good portion of people besides us voted for him.
They finished top 16. I think
it was worth it.
I think that proves how big brain MEC is. I'll say it. Come on.
But there's always like that one or two people who come in and like they post up like the public thing, and it's almost like a wall of shame. Who's going to get shamed? And there was one dude who was inside of it. I can't even remember his name, but
you're right.
His votes were off the wall, and it was just like, do you watch?
No, that's me. That's me. Sorry, I forgot to tell all of you. I was just in there under a different name last year. I casted absolutely zero collegiate League of Legends last year. I just went based on their Counter-Strike teams. Okay, that's all it was. RIT right at the top, right next to
this dude's got a really clean Falco, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, no. On the bright side of things, it's not like an official seeding of where people are. I think ONU is a very strong team, and I think they have the perfect way of showing it. They beat Purdue. Their fate is completely in ONU's hands. While Purdue Northwest, their fate is also in their hands. They need to just win 2 games. Don't fall down. And they have one of their 2 games is a Friday game. So don't flub. Don't flub on Friday.
Not only is it the Friday 5 p.m. game, it's the Friday 5 p.m. game against Drury, which we've already determined if they lose both games is a tiebreaker in Drury's favor. So,
wow.
God, it's a banger night for Friday, man.
Also, like, and we've kind of gone away from it, and I want to bring it up because there's another banger there, because this week is actually insane.
Yeah, no, this week is ridiculous.
Grandview Ottawa Braves is insane as well.
Yeah,
because like,
that's our last match of the season too. That like for regular season,
that's crazy. And
that's our last match.
Peak MEC
so,
right there.
It's so good. I am envious of you again, Mac, because that is, I think you guys are covering it, right? No, I get that.
No,
I
it's
get
you.
someone.
You get you.
Never mind. I just wanted to rub it in your face.
There's no Monday matches, Travis.
Yeah. Get wrecked, nerd. Guess who gets the good bangers this week?
I'm sorry.
Screw you, Mac.
Mac gets Purdue Northwest and Drury, and then Cleveland State Cornell. So like, there's no non-bangers this weekend, right?
That's
Like
true.
every day is good.
Hold on, sorry, I'm crying in ONU versus Purdue Northwest, and then Grandview versus Ottawa Braves. I'm sorry, hold on. Let me wipe my tears with them. No, I like.
Poor Travy
I
never gets to
know.
cast any games.
Oh, dude, I actually go through like casting withdrawal. I'm not even kidding. I'm sitting here in my chair watching. I'm like, let me in.
Wait, okay,
Come
actually, that's a
on.
good question. Do you guys, when you watch other leagues, or I guess this league itself too, when you watch games you're not casting, do you start casting in your head? Is that like a thing you do? Because
No.
I've done it in
I
my
know.
head and I've done it out loud.
I don't do that. I'm lounge mode when I'm watching games.
So I
That's
will,
yeah, I relate
I
to
will,
that.
I will like go. I'll go to a friend's house and I'll watch LCS. Like we'll be all be sitting in like a couch kind of situation, right? Watching LCS on the TV, and I'll start doing color caster shit and like just talking about it. And my friends just look at me going, "What are you doing?"
Let me cook. I
Yeah,
know
and
the game.
mine's like more conversation based. Well, like somebody usually inside the group call will be like, what are they doing? Ah, and I'm like,
It's like I feel the need to answer.
that's usually me, and because I also like theory crafting a lot. I like delving into the madness and being like, I think this is what he was going through, and usually I like people can see where I'm coming from, so I'm like, I'm doing it right, but. I'm very hyped for GVU taking on Ottawa Braves because I think the most exciting matchup that's there, and this might be a little bit of a hot take. I actually really like the idea of Castle taking on Prod, just because
Yes.
Prod is this
Yeah.
young new player in Ottawa Braves who's come in, who started off the season being like this person who I only really thought about like, oh, this person plays Belveth, okay. They looked all right on Vi, and I was just like, all right, their Graves is okay. But then they got manhandled by Purdue Northwest very systematically, and I was just like, all right, maybe Prod isn't doing too hot. But they've grown a lot. While I look at
Yep.
Castle as probably the most stable jungler, I think Castle is going to ensure that your team is playing at maximum capacity at all times. So I think this is actually a very good test for Prod, who I've seen growing over the season, to Castle, who is like the bar for excellence is inside the jungle, right? Inside the MEC. I think Castle does not get out jungled ever. So I'm very excited to see those two go head to head. So
Yeah.
that's another match of the week.
Yeah, and for that matchup, Travy Castle, I think has gotten a lot better being aggressive in the early game. I think the new season kind of demands that a little bit with Grubs on the top side of the map, makes the early game a little bit more interesting for us. Something that I really saw Ottawa struggle with versus ONU, specifically in game number one. Game number one, me and Shibby thought was rough from Ottawa. A few key moments. They looked a little desynced in terms of the shot calling. They were fighting great. Hands were there. Hands checks were getting passed. But the comms checks were, I feel like, kind of getting failed a little bit. Prod being left alone on an island trying to get an objective, and then ONU respawns and they somehow make it back to the objective. Prod still taking it while the rest of the teams doing ARAM in the mid lane, trying to look for kills underneath the turrets. Like, guys, take a step back. You got objectives to you got a few kills. You could play around a few
The
things on the map.
gremlins, dude. It got late at night, so they were hungry. They were out there. They were evolving. The gizmos are coming out, dude.
Give me the kills. Give me, I want to get them. But they cleaned it up in the series, I'll say, as things kind of carried on. And so I'm curious if they're going to keep that in mind. And I'm hoping against GVU, they can put together a more cohesive performance against them. And also for GVU, I feel like both GVU and Ottawa, it's the regular season. They're going to be both making long playoff runs. So they still have
Maybe.
a lot to go for. But I wonder for both squads, for Ottawa in this game, how well is their macro going to be, honestly, for me? Are they going to be able to build on the struggles from game one in Ohio Northern? I think they took a game off of ONU, and then game three was very, very close. And so for me, I want to see a bit more of that sort of, if they're able to. And you mentioned it, Travy, right? Castle, it's hard to get out. We
He
don't see a
doesn't lose
lot from him
games.
getting. He doesn't lose
He's
games, right?
never
He's
the
not going
cause
to make
GVU
a
has
lot.
lost.
Yeah,
It's usually something else on the map has happened.
he has like no Tinder red flags,
Mm.
I'll say. And so
That's
for
a brave
Ottawa, it's
assumption
gonna.
for a college student, dude.
Oh, okay. That was a way you could have said that, man. Okay.
I thought that was pretty good advice. I was like, oh, it popped
Like,
into my
no
mind. I was
red
like, I'll
flags
rock
for
with that.
Mac and I have just been cracking each other up this entire time. Trav's just trying to keep us on track, and Mac and I've just quietly cracking each other up.
But so with that point, I'll say for Ottawa, their windows of opportunity to get advantages, I think, are going to be somewhat limited. So when they happen, you gotta make it worth it. And then for GVU, we saw a dramatic shift in their play style from earlier into the season to what we saw against PNW. So what I'll be looking forward to is seeing what kind of GVU play style we're gonna see over the weekend. Are they gonna be playing more of that Night Star ultra hyper carry type gameplay, or are they gonna kind of mix and match, and are they only gonna save those games for close series?
I wonder if it sticks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like GVU has been playing well the whole season, other than the fact that they lost to Purdue Northwest, which again, totally reasonable. Like there are there are four really good teams in the MEC. I'm just like in my brain trying to do filtering. There's like four really good teams in the MEC. It's understandable to lose, right? So the question is, do they do that again this coming weekend when they play Ottawa and Briarcliff? I don't know, because I wonder what their like internal thought rankings are, if they think like anyone's like kind of fraudulent, and if they think teams are fraudulent, it's like, or they think teams are better than their record shows, it's like, do you play different against them in that case?
Yeah. Whose cards getting declined?
Yeah. I want to round things off with a very interesting topic, because we have one more week left in regular play, right?
We do.
Final topic. We've been going for a minute.
We've been going. We're at 46 minutes right now.
We're
perfect.
We're chilling. Okay.
I want to ask
Take another sip of my smoothie. We got some
ahead.
time.
I'm gonna ask y'all, front runner for MVP at the current moment in time without the last week of play. Do you have a front runner in your mind?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As a former voter for MEC Valorant, I believe the MVP was a regular season award. Okay, is that still the case? Or
yes.
Okay. So it is a regular season award. So we are only
considering regular season
through this week.
When we actually go in and vote for MVP, it's going to be something standard. I don't know how Unify is going to want to do it this time around, but no matter what happens, we will have a MVP vote. Trust.
That's no. I know that. I just want to make sure, because I know playoffs hasn't happened yet, but like, there's a couple people that could have like a really good playoff run, and like it would totally smash my MVP discussion across. But regular season award. Okay. I have to think for a minute, so someone else should go first.
My front runner, maybe Kato from ONU, mid laner.
I like that.
He's had, I think, highlight moments, big team fights, big plays. Doesn't lose too often in the mid lane. I think he's kind of up there for me. I'd have to, we haven't.
I sprung it on you guys. So to be clear, I never told them I was going to spring this.
This is off the dome.
No, there's thinking involved.
I like ambushing my co-host. Welcome.
It's great. It's great. I enjoy it. So for me, if I think Kato's up there for ONU. Huz has low-key had some really good games as well. Owen, do not sleep on Cuz's gameplay at the support level. So shout out Cuz. I don't want my supports being slept on. Shout out Cuz for an awesome season so far. For GVU, if they keep playing the way that they are, I think it's behind the back of Nightstar. So Nightstar is kind of in that discussion for me as well. And for Ottawa's an interesting squad. I don't know if I feel strongly enough for anyone on Ottawa to win the award.
It's got to be
And then-
Klutz if it was anybody from Ottawa for me.
Yeah.
I
And then for PNW,
You're just giving us one for everybody.
Well,
that's kind of my thoughts,
Here's the thing,
right?
depending
I'm
on
sorry,
how-
Travy, there's a lot of good players in the MEC. I like a lot of people.
depending on how this week goes, right, with these top 4 teams, it really could shape an MVP discussion, right?
Yeah.
I don't, in my head, as much as I think Drury's on the come up and stuff, I can't see myself voting for anyone Drury, Briarcliff, Cleveland State, or Cornell to be an MVP.
Yeah.
Right, I could see myself voting for someone on the other teams, and it like there are a lot of good players, and it's close enough that like I could say like, oh, you had a really good last week. I am gonna legitimately take recency bias into account here because I can't choose otherwise.
That happens. I mean, that happens.
So,
And
like-
I could see it also like a discussion for like some of the lower seeded teams, because MVP is also a subjective award, right? Like,
Mhm.
who is the most valuable player on a team it does not mean the
that's
same for the same
right.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't. The thing with that the NBA has shown us for like years and years and years is like it does not have to be the best player on the best team. That doesn't mean you're the MVP. It is what team where are you the most valuable player? Like who is
Mhm.
the most valuable to their team?
Yeah.
It's Castle.
I think
I-
that's a valued one. Yeah.
And the reason is very simple. I'm not saying that Castle is the best player for his team on any given night. I don't think he is. I think on many nights it is Nightstar. But Castle's never Travis said this before. Castle is never the reason you lose a game, and he is very often part of the reason why you win the game.
Mhm.
And like even on nights that like Nightstar doesn't have the greatest night ever, and maybe you're playing towards top side, or maybe you're playing towards mid, Castle is always like top 2 player on the team. Doesn't matter who the one is, right? That could change on that. Castle is like literally the Castle makes sure to facilitate how the team wins every single time, and I think that to me puts him at MVP. The problem is I can take that exact same argument and switch it to Julian
Yep.
and switch it to Doubtful. And not
Are we
feel bad
jungle
about it.
biased? Are we jungle biased here in the
No,
MEC? Trickster went in it last season.
Well, like, and the thing is like I can go and think about the rest of the roles, right? But I think that the top junglers have been so consistently good
Mhm.
that
Yep.
like it's hard for me to not be a little jungle biased on the fact of like you could tell me like, okay, let's take Purdue Northwest mid, right? Klexo. Klexo's had some bad games. He hasn't had like he's had really good games, but he's had some bad games. Are you telling me that the consistent jungler for Purdue Northwestern that makes sure that they win the games that they do isn't a better player than the up and down mid? Like the problem is like I do A/B comparisons in my head, and it's like every time it's jungler. The junglers for these come out on their on top. Now, if I have to go to other teams, I'm giving other answers.
Yeah.
Right? If I go to like Briarcliff, I'm probably saying Cammer. Even though Mike's been incredible this season, I'm probably saying Cammer. But like you go down the list and it's like it starts to get a little
changes.
questionable after like the first couple teams, but those first couple teams like
Top 4 teams have good
junglers, man.
junglers. Right?
The junglers, man.
Yeah, we get that. I think Purdue Northwest, it's a bit interesting for me. It's to a different degree. I think it's kind of actually not a different degree. It's about the same as Ottawa Braves, where I think there's a lot of different people who do things on that team. So it's like Doubtful definitely deserves it, but then you have Kletsu, who's also right there staring you in the face, and Kletsu's been insane all season.
The thing is
their bot lane's been insane all season. I think Toponer's actually had a very good season as well. I think you look over to ONU and you can say Kaido is one, right? But then you also look over at Julian, and Julian's been great for the team as well. Even Aggression's had a split full of a lot of growth inside of it, so you could even make an argument for them. GVU, you got Castle there, but you also have Nightstar there as well. I do think like jungle is definitely it's easy to make it into an MVP because it affects all 3 lanes, and it's the one lane that will do that. And if you're not like just solo killing your opponent over and over again, and I wanted to touch on it because my spicy pick that I was going to bring up into everybody's mind, but Logan decided he wanted to start talking about all these other teams.
Quick slice?
Cammer, actually. I think Cammer is a
fair.
very interesting person to talk about, just because like if you look at that team, you're like, Camera actually does a lot, right? Everybody has to choose to do their pick and ban around Camera's champion pool. We've seen more brand mids than I would care to have seen because Camera's in the league. We have all these different things that are coming across where like people are like, oh, I'm gonna just take brand away from Camera, so Camera's not gonna play it. I've seen the Twisted Fate be a must ban against Camera. Like,
oh my god.
I do think that there's an argument for even a team that's in the middle of the pack like Camera to possibly be in that discussion for MVP because that team might not function as well. And same thing could be said for Mike too. Yeah. Mike is also a very good player.
Mike would be the other one. But I think that we start to get into the what is an MVP, and we start to go like, oh, well, last year in the NBA,
the philosophy, man.
Yeah, like last year in the NBA, Nikola Jokic was the MVP. He was the best player on the best team. Full stop. But we've had years of like, oh, Russell Westbrook was the MVP because he put up triple doubles for the worst team in the NBA for the entire season. And so like, yeah, he statistically on paper is the best player, but he plays for a terrible team. And like, yes, he was the most valuable player for that team, but he wasn't the best player in the league. So it comes down to like, what is the definition of MVP?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's
what it comes down to. Like that, it really does come down to that. Cause like you start if you do that ladder definition of like what player means most to their team, you look really closely at Briarcliff really quickly.
Yeah.
I do want to maybe, Travy, shout out for you for putting this on your channel and everything. I know the MEC community loves it, so I'm curious maybe if y'all want to flood the comments, if you make it all the way here. I mean, I'm curious what the MEC community finds the most valuable. We have in our minds, the player that's helping the team get through, delivering results, making big plays. But yeah, I wonder if honestly the community maybe has a different perspective on it than what we're used to. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, they're the most valuable opinions that we can have. Haha, see, see what I did there. I like that. I personally, who knows? Maybe after the opinions, maybe somebody will pop in the chat that and be like, we don't want MVP anymore. We want MVC, most valuable chatter, because there's been a lot of those. So who knows?
Oh wait, who was the chatter the other night that you called out on stream because it was
Music Let's See 14? That's who it was. They were.
I don't know if you watched this, Smack,
cheerleader,
but oh my god, it was fantastic. We had one person in chat just absolutely cheering on BCU the entire time in a sea of people cheering for Drury. It was excellent.
That's what we love to see. That's the energy that MEC loves to bring. But with that being said, we ran a little bit longer than what we normally do. We got a little caught up in the MVP discussion. I sprung it on. That's kind of my bad. I did that. I made this mess. But we're going to go ahead.
The mastermind. You were planning it all along.
I do have complete control over this. I can edit anything in and out that I would like. So
my Twitter argument getting instantly edited out.
100%. Taking it
every time
out.
I talk, gone.
It's blurred out.
It's actually voiced over. Shibby goes back and re-records over Mech talking. Thanks for being a stand-in, Mech. We appreciate it.
I have the audio actually sitting on standby already. We knew exactly.
No, it's great. He's gonna do the thing where he talks exactly like me, so you see my mouth moving, but Shibby's voice coming out of it. Excellent.
Oh goodness, we're a bunch of goobers.
We are a bunch of goofy goobers. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and sign things off. We'll be coming back into more games coming up this weekend, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Our first match, we will have 2 matches happening on Friday at our standard starting time. Maybe spectator client's really weird. It's kind of borked, so we'll see exactly what that happens with that. But we will be back with more MEC this Friday. We'll be going Saturday and Sunday for our games, and that will paint our picture for what playoffs.
Well, Travy,
playoffs is Monday.
Playoffs are that Monday the 4th.
Yeah. So they're gonna paint
no
the
break.
That's so weird for me to think about.
Just a really quick picture. Okay.
Playoffs are Monday, so we have to create the bracket on Sunday. Yeah. So thankfully most of it will be created, but we'll be catching you all there. We hope to see each and every single one of you. Take care and have a phenomenal rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye.